Right, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. We are here at Daytona for the 2.4 hours of Daytona, the North American servers that took place on Wednesday night. And we were there for this shot right here was the start of the race, and second place GTE didn't get going. Apparently in the chat afterwards it sounded like he had some technical issues and couldn't get off the line, and so the chaos ensued right there at the start. We were able to miss it. We are in the GT3 class, and coming up shortly here I'll give you a view from what it was like inside my car. So the video that I'm doing here, instead of doing all 2 hours, 2.5 hours of the race, because no one wants to watch that, we're going to do highlights of it and kind of show you some of the better points for myself that took place, instead of just trying to do a driver's view for 2.5 hours. So like I said, we'll switch over now to the in-car view for me and go from there. So we're sitting in the cockpit. I'm in the Ford GT3 for this race, and we're about ready to take the green flag here. There was a little chaos at the start here in car as well too, before I even knew what was going on ahead of me here. So we get rolling, we see what's going on, we dive to the inside, pray that nobody comes down the track on the right side and nobody runs us over on the left, and we got through. So the chaos for me was simply the fact that I don't do a lot of standing starts within RaceRoom. And also I have the car set up to do a manual ignition and fire up, and I didn't know if the car went on the grid automatically fired up, or if I had to do it myself. And so I actually hit the ignition button and really started playing with my head, and I had no idea if I was going or not. So I was praying that when the lights went out, that I was actually going to get off the line there, and struggled a little bit with the banking to get going. RaceRoom did say that they, recently came out, they were going to have rolling starts, but there were some bugs going on, so they ended up just making this event a standing start. Like I mentioned, this was the North American servers, so we've recently had the North American group start a Discord channel and kind of get all of us together and do some racing. As there's quite a bit of people, I don't want to say complaining, but one of the bigger gripes I've made in prior videos was that we didn't have a whole lot of chances for ranked races, and so they listened and put a group together, and we thank them for that in organizing this. And so at this point now we are kind of settling in. We got through it. Actually, the pole sitter in our class, he had some issues at the start as well too. I'm not sure if he didn't get going or got caught up in something, but at this point he gets shuffled back. So there was 9 GTE cars in our race, and the rest were all GT3. There's quite a mix of cars in the GT3 class, and so we're running third at this point right here. And I'm thinking, alright, well, somehow we kept our nose clean, so that's good. That's a good thing. I put qualified P4 in the Ford, and honestly I had about maybe 12 laps total of practice in this car, very few setup tweaks. I was nervous picking it. I didn't know how the BOP would go, but I wanted to drive something different than I thought everybody else would drive. And I said, what the hell, let's go for it. So I did. And I actually really enjoyed driving the car, and the BOP wasn't that bad. I kind of found as the race went on here that I maybe ran too much wing. Seemed like I struggled on the straights against some other cars. But I think the downforce actually helped me out on tire wear. Because the whole strategy for this race was going to be very interesting on how you chose what to do. So it was going to be 2 stops. The question was, which stop do you take tires on? Because you didn't want to take tires at both stops. You were going to lose 30-40 seconds, something like that. So you wanted to try and keep one of the stops be just fuel. So it was a matter of, do you run 2 hours on tires and then 24-ish minutes, or I guess you didn't have to run full 2 hours. The stint time was about 32 laps, so it got you close to 2 hours, I guess. Or you could run an hour, change tires, and then you'd have to go like an hour and 24 minutes. So you'd have to conserve a little bit in one of the stints. However you decided to do it. So that was going to be kind of an interesting thing. Here at this beginning part, obviously the driver and me saw the lead right there, you know, those two guys in front are first and second, and I'm battling them. So I wasn't really paying attention to tires at this point. I wanted to try and get up front and lead kind of deal and keep with them. But I also was thinking if I could stay in the draft, I might be able to conserve a little fuel, because I didn't know what the Ford's fuel consumption was going to be like. And so I was like, well, if I can even just ride behind these guys and maybe catch a draft, that might help out with some fuel numbers as far as for later in the race, potentially. And I felt that I had better pace than these two guys, so both of them, I believe, qualified behind me. So I felt that, if I could just be consistent, I would have the chance to, run them down, get past them, and then we'll just kind of see where we shake out from there. And yeah, so we actually had a fun little battle here with these two, keeping it close, and I enjoyed it. Even if we would have been able to stuck behind them for a while, at least it was fun to be able to race some cars. That was really enjoyable, and Daytona is. I enjoy it. I think it's a fun track. I know there's not a lot of corners, but in having not a lot of corners, if you mess up a corner, you're going to mess up your lap time really bad. So it's really important that when you get to those corners, like for here, when you get to the bus stop, that you don't brake too deep and you get your turn-in points right and you get the car pointed right here on the straightaway so that you can maximize your speed down the straight. So while it's not an overly technical course, it's an important course into how you make your speed around the track, and I should say keep your speed around the track. So we get a nice real run on the BMW here, and we pop outside. I'm hoping to tuck in behind this roof and pick up a draft. It wasn't this roof just in particular. The roof in general was crazy fast at Daytona. I was really surprised by that. That car could flat fly down the straightaways. You got a little bump from the BMW there, and that's all right. There's no harm, no foul there. The Camaro was also stupid fast on the straightaways. Obviously, it didn't turn very well on the infield section, so that made it hard. But there was a couple times later in the race where the Camaro, luckily it was a lap car, but blew past me on the straightaways if I was standing still. And again, some of that comes down to the amount of downforce I was running compared to them, but it still was a super fast car. So we close in again here on these guys, and we ride around for, a couple laps with them, and we're working hard here, trying to see where's a good point. At this point, I don't realize I'm running too much downforce, and therefore I'm gonna struggle to get by them on the straights. So it's gonna have to be in the braking zone, or they're gonna have to make a mistake, one of the two. And so we just are trying to keep close. And like I said, at this point here, I'm kind of like, all right, well, if I know I'm not going to pass them on the straights, then I'm just going to ride behind them and hopefully get some fuel conservation in there. Keep our lines clean, like I said, keep the thing pointing in the right direction so we can maximize our speed on the straightaways. When you come out onto the speedway after turn 6, I believe, that one's really, really hard because the infield feels like it's falling away, and then you're getting up on the banking, so it's really easy to spin the rear tires. And not only that, but the car wants to push up towards the wall, so you're really trying to pick up the throttle as early as you can, obviously for the straight, but you're not trying to do it too early where you just absolutely destroy the front tires. So again, we get a good run here. And I'm trying to decide if I should go left or right at this point, but I don't know which way he's going to go. He half defends, so I was hoping that he went a little deep there, and he didn't. But the good thing is he knows we're there. We're looking. But again, it's a long, long race. We're not that far into it, so there's no point in doing anything really crazy. And, if anything, we can kind of hang tight and see what happens. If we get traffic and he loses it, really weird kind of half spin. I don't know if he got too hard on the brakes or whatnot, but we'll take it. Unfortunately, I believe he got hit by someone else and sustained some damage on the front. So now we're second in class by just keeping the nose clean. Now we got to run down this roof, which is, like I said, is going to be hard to do on the straights because they're quite good as far as top end speed goes. So the car that started on pole, Alessandro Zanz, he qualified on pole 4 seconds faster than second place in the roof. Well, he was in the roof, and he was really, really, really quick. And so I had a feeling that he would be a factor at some point in the race, but at this point he is kind of mired down in traffic and actually really struggling to get back through maybe as fast as he would like to. Obviously, if he would have had a clean start, I would imagine he would have been checked out at this point, and he wouldn't have had any competition, or any troubles to worry about. So again, like I said, you could see on the straight the rough is super quick, and so we're working to try and get the pace back up to him. And again, we're just about keeping it clean, because the worst case scenario is we wait and we try and do it through the pit stops. There was a really funky thing. So I was watching the North American broadcast back, because the group broadcasted the race on the YouTube channel, and a lot of people had the AI set up for the pit lane speed limiter, and there actually was, this was a close moment here, I forgot about that McLaren, man alive, I don't know what he was doing for a re-entry, but he allowed us to get back up to the roof here, because he really had to make sure that he knew where the McLaren was going. But back to the pit bug. So apparently a lot of people were struggling with the AI because they figured that so not that they came in at full speed, but they thought if they were close enough that as soon as they hit the line with the AI pit limiter on, it automatically take them to the pit lane speed limit, which was not the case. So when we got to the first round of pit stops, like everybody was getting dinged for speeding on pit lane and getting some sort of penalty or drive-through or whatever. And I was shocked by that, because the message board was just lighting up as I was driving around. I'm like, man alive, what's going on? So. And I knew in practice, the couple times I did my practice into the pit lane, I went in a little hot, so I was like, I'm gonna back it off just a touch and make sure that I'm under when I get through, because I didn't have the AI one on. I do a manual. As we dive down the lap Corvette here, he had some front end damage and kind of struggled throughout the race, but he was clean every time that we got to him, so there was really no issues or anything. But yeah, I mean, the pit stops, you don't see a lot of people do them when they do races, and so if you don't practice them enough, you can really burn yourself in races doing it. But you can also, if you do practice them, make up a lot of time. So there he got a death wiggle in the middle and had to catch it. We go around on the outside, and we are now leading in the GT3 class in the Ford GT. And at this point, I'm just like, all right, man, just keep doing your thing. Don't worry about it. And I almost lose it myself at slow speed there, but so yeah, now I'm like, you know what? Same approach. Settle in, run consistent laps. Don't worry about the end of the race and all that kind of stuff like that. Just it's a long race, and it is. You don't think about it. You're excited at the beginning, and you're like, yeah, let's go kind of deal, and you're not really thinking about, oh yeah, I got to drive for 2.5 hours. But so yeah, we're in the lead here. We're having an awesome time. This is such a good feeling kind of deal. This is only the second special event I've ever done in RaceRoom, being Bathurst last year being the first time, and I'll put a link up for the video for that one, or I'll put a card up for the video on that one. So if you want, you can take a look at that. But yeah, Daytona, and we're leading in the Ford GT. Super happy at this point, and just focused on doing what we need to do. We end up having about a 4 or 5 second lead in the Ford. Like I said, Alessandro is kind of working his way through the traffic here, but again, we were just being super consistent and not trying to overdrive the car at this point. So we are going to fast forward ahead a little bit here and see where we pick back up. Alright, so we pick it back up here. We've changed camera views, and where we picked up, so the roof behind us there is actually Alessandro. So he made his way through all the traffic and got his way up. He was catching us by 1.5 seconds or more a lap, which was just unbelievable. I was watching the times when we hit the line every lap, and I was just like, oh boy. So as he's rolling in here, I know it's inevitable. He will get me because at this point we're roughly around a little over a half hour into the race. So I've led for, at least 20-ish minutes here, which is really, really cool. Maybe a little bit more than that, but anyway, like I said, I'm paying attention to the road. I see him coming, and I know it's not a matter of him getting me. It's inevitable. So I'm not gonna do anything to slow him up at this point because we're just gonna end up losing more time to the people behind us. And really, the ultimate goal was to finish as high as possible. So I was like, you know what? If we get a good spot and we don't lose a lot of time, we're just gonna let him go and get back on with our race and go from there. So, like I said, he was really, really quick on the straights, but I think he had a really good setup in the infield section too because he could really close in under braking. So I don't know if that was just the roof compared to the Ford or if he just had much better setup work. Like I said, I didn't get a ton of time in it. I found out about the ability to do the race on Monday, and the race took place on Wednesday, and so I know no excuses. I mean, I'm not trying to make any excuses. I'm sure he would have been faster anyway, kind of deal. But as you can see here, he's really closing in, and I got a pretty good feeling that this might be the time right here. So I just make sure I run my line, get a good exit off, and then we see where the cards stack. But he's getting a good run right here in my draft, and so yeah, I see him coming here. And he's going to pop out to the right. And we got plenty of time to get to the bus stop here. So I kind of just like slightly lifted a little bit and tucked on in behind him. And like I said, there was absolutely no reason to try and hold him up. It just never was going to happen. And that way he doesn't have to try and force a pass. And we end up getting collected, accidentally for it. So at this point, even though I knew he had much better pace than I did, I was like, you know what? If I can stay in his draft here, maybe on the straights, I knew I was decent through the infield, pretty good during the infield section. If I could just keep on him on the straights, maybe I wouldn't lose him too fast. Not necessarily that I was gonna get back by him, but that I wouldn't lose him super fast. And you never know, maybe he makes a mistake or something like that. But at this point, it was just about building that gap behind us, which we were able to do. And so I was really pleased with that because it just ensured that anything maybe happens to me with traffic, I've got a gap to not have to worry about anything. And so yeah, we ride around with him for a few laps here and kind of keep him close, but he kind of slowly starts to stretch it out. I think like 5 or 6 laps I stayed behind him here and kept the gap like around a second or two. And then all of a sudden he kind of just took off. And then once we got through the first pit cycle, he was really gone after that. So we are going to fast forward ahead and pick up like around the pit stop. Alright, so we're coming out of the turn 4 banking here onto the front part, and we are going to come in for our first pit stop. As I mentioned earlier with that AI pit bug and seeing all the penalties, I made sure to make, like I said, I was doing manual, but I wanted to make sure that I did not get a penalty, so I came in nice and slow. We had a nice gap. Took it easy getting in the box here so we didn't overshoot or anything, and as I was talking earlier about strategy, I was kind of curious about when you do tires and not. So I decided to do fuel and tires on the first stop. I figured I could run, an hour and 24 minutes or roughly that on the second stint and be good on the tires. But I was mindful of it when I came out of this pit stop, so I didn't try and push super hard because I wanted to see how much I could save the tires before I made my next pit stop, because that was going to tell me how hard I could push in that final bit of minutes after the second stop. So it was a long wait, that's for sure. We were the second last to stop, I believe, for GT3. So Alessandro, he stopped after us. One other person stopped early, I believe, and they came out in the lead once we kind of cycled through everything. But obviously they weren't really on the same strategy, so we cycled through and got back to our first and second spots. And So I think too, from what I was hearing about the AI doing it is it was even more on pit exit than it was at pit entrance. So where the broadcasters were saying they were seeing it a lot was as we come through the corner here and approach the pit exit line. So when you're sitting in the car, it looks like you're clear, but there, the AI would turn the pit limiter off, but the car was still on or behind the pit line, and so that's why they were getting the penalty, because they were accelerating before it. And so I don't know how they got around doing that, if they kept their foot on the brake when they got to the line or weren't full throttle when they got to it, so you weren't fully on the limiter when you got to the end. But certainly a bug that Sector 3 will have to look at, and I think it was brought up in the Dubai endurance race, so I think they know about it and they got to work on it, kind of deal. But like I said, for me it was kind of an advantage doing the manual because I didn't have to worry about it at all. From the standpoint of the computer giving me a potential penalty, if I would have got a penalty, it would have been my own doing, kind of deal. So I would have had no one to blame myself. But we came out here and we were behind this Nissan, which I was kind of curious how it was going to be in a straight line, if I was going to struggle with it. It wasn't for position, I don't believe. We were lapping this car at this point. I figured it probably wouldn't be that great on the infield section. But I know that we got alongside here, and it was a struggle. At this point, I knew if I didn't get by him, I was more likely either going to be tugging back in or I was going to be making a move down into the braking section here. And it was just a matter of if he stayed high and allowed us down the inside or not. So we're kind of feeling it out here as we get ready to come to the braking zone. I didn't take it in real deep because I didn't know what he was going to do. And again, I'm not trying to cause an incident with a lap or anything like that. I can wait a couple more corners to be able to get the spot that I need. So here I ducked down the inside. He was nice enough to get over on the left-hand side there. So from this standpoint, we kind of just settled in and we ran. Alessandro was already through the pit cycle. He ended up stretching the lead out to like 7 seconds or something like that. So kind of knew it was not necessarily over at that point, but it was going to be, pretty much just a race for me for second, and then, see if he made any mistakes or anything. So yeah, we are going to skip ahead again. Probably get to the second stop here. Not much happened between stops. Like I said, just kind of running laps and just making sure we were keeping a gap to the cars behind us here. So we're going to jump ahead to the second stop. Alright, so here we are just wrapping up stop number 2, heading down the pit lane. So remember, this stop was just fuel only. So we didn't take tires on this stop, so it was a much quicker stop. I think it was around 20-ish seconds. And we actually took on more fuel than we probably needed to at this point, but considering the gap that I had, I believe when I came in, the gap back to third place was like 26 seconds, so I knew I had time that I could play with. So again, it was making sure that I took my time getting onto pit road, didn't really pressure myself getting into the pit lane, and then, like I said, took on I took on more fuel than I definitely needed to, but I just wanted to be safe and make sure that we made it to the finish at this point. So came out and all 4 tires were yellow when I got in. Not bad, they had just recently turned yellow at the end of that second stint. So I didn't know how quickly from once they turned yellow they would get worse. So when I came out here, I was kind of taking my time, and I wasn't really pushing the car too hard, kind of deal. I think I started running in the high 46s and low 47s, just to kind of preserve them a little bit. I was making sure I wasn't picking up the throttle too early and backed up the braking zones a little bit, and really. And also, too, because, again, from an endurance standpoint, I personally haven't done an endurance race in quite a while. I used to do a lot more endurance racing in iRacing with my Rumble Strip group, and I do miss those guys and I miss those events. So yeah, this was the first time in a long time I've driven more than an hour, and doing 2.5 hours was quite a task. I was getting tired at the end. Mentally, I was trying to make sure I was just focusing when I got to the brake zones and taking breaks when I got on the long straights here. And so yeah, my pace, I kind of backed it off here a little bit because I wanted to also take care of the tires, as I was saying. And I had a healthy gap that it was going to be what I thought was going to be tricky for third place to catch back up. So as this thing goes on, it actually turns out that third place had good pace. My guess is that, and what at first what I was thinking, it was like they had to have taken tires. Excuse me. But then I started thinking, I'm like, he couldn't have taken tires because he would be really far back if he took tires on that one, I would think. Considering my stop was 20 seconds and he was behind me the whole time. So I was kind of like, man, he's got good pace. So he slowly started bringing it down every time, and I was kind of like, oh boy. So I think around the like 20-minute to go mark, I was like, I gotta kind of start going here, because if I don't, he might catch me, kind of deal. And so I started picking up my pace slowly, not like trying to rip out my fastest laps, but try to get back down into the mid 46s, and if I could get into the low 46s, you know, that was good then, obviously. And as we got down within 10 minutes, you know, I was trying to do the math in my head, you know, what the gap was, how many potential more laps to go, so what would the pace need to be able to get to me. And I was just like, if you can get a couple laps where the gap can't decrease, or it decreases very minimally, then that just makes the pace need to be that much higher to be able to get to you. So I was able to do that. The gap did get down. It got down. It went from, like, I think I said, you know, 26 seconds. It got down to 6 or under 6. I might have got down under 5. And so I was getting nervous, kind of deal, because I was just like, come on, clock, you know, can we please get to the end here? And so it was definitely worrying times, that's for sure. And so yeah, we got through both stops fine, and I was happy about that, because again, I don't do a lot of them in RaceRoom per se, and the ones I do are more of the you know, when I do the ADAC races and you've got the duration, so you've got to be within pit road for X amount of time, kind of deal, not necessarily the just fuel and tires and take off kind of deal. So I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I just wanted to make sure that we didn't cause ourselves any problems in the pit road, and we were able to do that. So we're going to jump ahead to the final couple laps and bringing it on home. So here we are coming to the white flag at this point of 2.5 hours of racing at Daytona. We are still in second place at this point. Third place, however, is within, as I mentioned, 5 seconds of us. So we were still, I mean, at this point I figured I had it, but you never know what's going to happen. So I was still not counting my chickens or anything. But again, just trying to make sure we're hitting our apexes and making sure we don't overstep the car. The tires were still in decent shape at this point. They did lose some grip, but they weren't that bad. So I was happy with how I was able to conserve those and make them go the distance that I needed them to. And we are kind of just enjoying our last lap here. Alessandro is way gone. Like, he's over 30 seconds ahead of us at this point in the race. So like I said way early on, you know, when he caught me, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you. And because again, you know, hindsight's obviously 20/20, but I was never gonna be able to race him, so there was literally no point of it. And the focus then at that point was trying to finish second place, and which I still was gonna be more than happy with. So we come into the bus stop here for the final time, make sure we get our points, entry and exit points right. We ended up with 11 incidents for the race, which most of them were at the bus stop because I just got lazy going through there and cut a corner. I was going for none, but you know, 11's not bad, and it wasn't any crashes, so I'll take that. So here we come off corner number 4, heading to the checkered flag here, and we are going to finish P2 in the Daytona 2.4 hours. in RaceRoom on the North American servers, and I am absolutely elated at this point because, you know, like I said early on, the Ford I was really nervous about as far as pace goes, and to be able to qualify P4 with it, and then lead a while, and even if it wasn't on pure pace, and then to be able to bring it home second, be consistent, no mistakes, no accidents, anything like that, nail the pit stops. Super happy with that, and I can't thank the North American group again for putting on the race. It was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it, and it's been fun to interact with a lot of those people on the channel as well too, and share the enthusiasm for this title, because it is a lot of fun and I do really enjoy it, and I do want to do a video kind of highlighting why I like the title as much as I do. So yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about the highlight video. I enjoyed actually making it, and I might look forward to doing that with some of the other races that I have. And yeah, next week is going to be the Bathurst, 2 hours so in RaceRoom. So probably going to do that race, and yeah, make sure to be on the lookout for that one. As always, thanks for watching.